The shadows of battle put a terrifying light on humanity's darkest corners, showing unimaginable atrocities that occurred amid the mayhem. A horrible reality emerged from the bloody chapters of World War II, the presence of mobile brothels. These rolling brothels, known as Bordels Mobiles de Campagne, were used to give sexual services to French soldiers serving in unorthodox theaters of combat. But how did these mobile brothels come to be? What were the consequences for the ladies involved? Brace yourself as we reveal the shocking truth of forced prostitution in mobile brothels during WW2, discovering untold stories and bringing light to the war's terrible underworld. In the depths of war, amidst the horrors and chaos, a disturbing tradition emerged, the practice of bringing brothels to soldiers. This practice traces its roots back to the Third Crusade, when Philip II of France, appalled by the rampant sodomy and rape committed by the Crusaders, arranged for a boatload of girls of joy to be sent from France. This marked the beginning of a dark chapter that would span centuries. The first mobile brothels, known as Bordels Mobiles de Campagne, likely came into existence during the military control of Algeria, following its conquest by the French army. These mobile brothels, driven by racist and classist motives, aimed to prevent indigenous soldiers from engaging in sexual relations with local women and to curb the spread of venereal diseases such as syphilis, which had no cure at the time. The alarming statistics reveal that even with these measures, 400,000 men were infected during 4 years of war. Initially, the BMCs operated without an official designation. The acronym BMC first appeared in the 1920s, when the regulation of signs in the French army included mention of these mobile brothels. Military officials actively facilitated the provision of prostitutes for their troops, with the Association des Maîtres et Maîtresses d'Hôtels Meublés de France et des Colonies playing a coordinating role. These prostitutes were said to be volunteers, although the circumstances surrounding their involvement remained shrouded in grim ambiguity. The interwar period witnessed a proliferation of military brothels, with nearly every town housing a garrison or regiment having its own BMC. In colonial wars, such as Indochina and Algeria, the presence and utilization of BMCs were not only acknowledged but encouraged by the army. In France, the Loi Marthe Richard of 1946 prohibited brothels, yet the Ministry of the Armed Forces authorized the continued use of BMCs for North African units stationed in metropolitan France in 1947, with the prostitutes often originating from Algeria. These mobile brothels, distinct from the reserved areas near permanent garrisons, played a significant role in the spread of sexually transmitted diseases. They also became targets for female sympathizers in the Viet Minh in the Indochina War. In Saigon, a notorious BMC known as the Park of the Buffaloes existed. During the siege of Dien Bien Phu, a BMC containing Vietnamese and Algerian prostitutes was flown in, with the women subsequently assuming the role of nursing assistants for the French garrison until their capture by the Viet Minh. While some of these mobile brothels were officially organized by the army, they primarily operated through large trailer trucks that accommodated up to 10 women. Though their presence dwindled in France after World War II, they experienced a resurgence during the Indochina War and the war in Algeria. Eventually, only the Foreign Legion continued to utilize them, closing the last BMC on French soil in Guyana in 1995. It is chilling to note that the BMC in Djibouti remained operational until 2003. The existence and proliferation of these mobile brothels paint a disturbing picture of the exploitation and degradation that unfolded during the tumult of war. From their origins in the Third Crusade to their enduring presence in more recent conflicts, these BMCs stood as stark symbols of the power dynamics and moral compromises that pervade wartime environments. In stark contrast to the French approach, German generals during World War II recognized the futility of preventing their soldiers from engaging in sexual activities. Rather than attempting to suppress these desires, they sought to control them. Thus, the German army established an extensive network of military brothels throughout the occupied territories, creating an infrastructure for sexual exploitation. During World War II, the Germans operated an astonishing number of military brothels, over 500. Cities like Paris alone had 19 brothels located in the inner city. These establishments served as instruments of coercion as between 34,000 and 50,000 young girls and women were forcibly subjected to a life of prostitution. Shockingly, some historians contend that the number of sex slaves was even higher, emphasizing the staggering scale of this abhorrent practice. At the forefront of organizing the military brothels was Reinhard Heydrich, a notorious figure within the ranks of the SS and a primary architect of the Holocaust. Heydrich's order to create state-controlled prostitution came into effect on March 16, 1940, further illustrating the calculated and systematic nature of the German regime's approach to exploitation. The organization and existence of these military brothels also shed light on the active involvement of the German army in shaping notions of gender and sexuality. Military authorities harbored concerns that denying soldiers access to women in a homosocial context might encourage homosexual activities among the troops. Reports of what was described as special camaraderie or homosexual behavior within the ranks further fueled these apprehensions. The soldiers visiting the brothels were expected to adhere to strict procedures. They had to fill out a special questionnaire, receive a bactericide and a condom, and be forbidden from engaging in unprotected sex. However, officers often enticed the women with large sums of money to violate this rule. After each encounter, the soldier would undergo sanitation for possible venereal diseases and receive a certificate confirming his cleanliness. The soldiers saw themselves as mere visitors, but in reality, they were perpetrating acts of rape upon these vulnerable women. While some women in the military brothels may have chosen prostitution as a means to escape concentration camps, the majority were coerced into sexual slavery. The Nazis presented these women with a devastating choice: submit to a life of sexual servitude or face death. As the Germans expanded their network of military brothels throughout the occupied territories, they faced a shortage of available prostitutes. Their solution was to resort to sexual slavery. They conducted raids on cities and villages, forcefully seizing women and teenage girls aged between 15 and 30. The women lived in constant fear, knowing that stepping foot outside meant risking abduction by the German police. Loaded onto trucks, they were transported to unknown destinations, with many never returning home. Another source of sex slaves for the military brothels were the women from concentration camps. Ravensbrück concentration camp, in particular, gained notoriety for providing a large number of victims. Around 5,000 women from Ravensbrück were selected to serve in the military brothels, with many choosing to take their own lives rather than endure the horrific fate that awaited them. The military brothels created by the Germans were a dark chapter in human history, embodying the depths of depravity and cruelty reached by those in power. The stories of these women serve as a chilling reminder of the unimaginable suffering inflicted upon the innocent and the urgent need for us to confront and prevent such atrocities from ever occurring again. During World War II, the construction and use of mobile brothels was a terrifying reality, fueled by a variety of circumstances. Recognizing the inevitability of soldiers wanting sexual liberation, the Germans chose to control and utilize this component of their military operations. They set up around 500 military brothels across the seized regions with precise planning and organization. The mobile brothels were originally envisioned as a way to keep soldiers from indulging in unapproved sexual activities, such as homosexual relationships, while also fostering militarized masculinity and heterosexual male sociability. Germans actively sought prostitutes through raids and kidnappings, specifically targeting women and juvenile girls from captured cities, villages, and even concentration camps. However, the reality behind these military brothels was one of coercion, rape, and terrible treatment of women who had their agency stolen and were committed to sexual servitude. The history of mobile brothels during World War II demonstrates the depths of dehumanization and degradation of persons during times of conflict. Mobile brothels were used by the French military during World War I and II, and these brothels served the army, but on the other hand, the German military had not used them. Instead, they built camp brothels within concentration camps. Addressing and remembering these atrocities is critical, ensuring that the victims' voices are heard, their tales are told, and their suffering is acknowledged. By doing so, we may work to prevent such horrible atrocities from happening again, and create a world where human dignity and rights are respected even in the darkest of times. Thank you for watching.